The movie Daredevil came out in 2003. This movie is an extremely cheesy, kind of ahead of its time if you think about it, superhero movie following Daredevil versus the Kingpin. And yeah, so this movie is so mixed because over time, the public's perception of this movie has changed so drastically. It is over the past 21 years. People have gone from hating this movie to think, okay, it's okay, to now it having its own cult following and just having a whole other fan base of its own. So what do I think about it? It's an all-around okay movie. It is nothing great. We've definitely had better superhero movies. But is it necessarily bad, all things considered? Not really. I actually think it's quite okay. And, so we're going to talk about it. So we start off this movie with the Daredevil. And we get a little bit of a backstory of his character. And, not that it is too interesting, but basically to sum it up, his dad was a boxer, a fighter, and then he was eventually killed because he had some shady business with the mafia. And then to avenge his father, he got this super cool Daredevil persona to avenge his father. And that's where we are today in this movie. So yeah, it's fun. It's good enough. And we all know Ben Affleck played Daredevil in this movie. And though we did not play him in later years, I still do think he did a very good job playing the character. And he's able to make it charismatic, a good character. But sometimes it does feel like he's not actually blind because of the way he's played. Because, he'll just do things that are maybe that's a little bit crossing the line a little bit. Because it's just he will he'll take his mask off that he's wearing. In his Daredevil costume, he'll take his mask off, and then he'll just look at straight forward for a second, like he's not blind, and then just start looking up and oh, I'm blind now, guys. So it's little things like that. This movie is very cheesy, which is a plus, but also a minus at the same time, because it adds to it kind of just being, I don't know, it's okay, because a comic book movie, if it's cheesy in a good way, it might be okay. And movies that are like this are good when they're cheesy. I liked this one. I don't like cheesy moments. There's this one moment where he'll just say something and it's just this quip, but it's ungodly cheesy and just bad. It's just funny. So it has an extra layer of comedy that it didn't even mean to have. Which I, of course, don't mind at all. It's fun. It's good enough. Whatever. I don't even care. But yeah, so he eventually meets this girl, and, played by Jennifer Gardner. And they get to know each other, and they start to really like each other. Because he hasn't had a real connection, because he's afraid that, it'll get taken away from him, just like everything else that he's ever loved has. And eventually we get to meet the Kingpin, and our main villain, which is the Bullseye. And oh my god, he's such a cheesy villain. Just from his, trench coat biker jacket thing that he has going on, from the things he says, and from, the weird way they shoot every action scene he's in, it just creates for an interesting scenario of just, okay, that's a little bit too goofy, man. I'm just saying. So, yeah, eventually we have our final showdown, and something else that's kind of funny is Jon Favreau is also in this movie, which is kind of, ironic, since he did do so much for Marvel going forward after this, that it's just funny to just kind of see him here, just doing this. And, eventually it does lead to a final showdown, where, on this rooftop, you have first our Jennifer Gardner's character wants to avenge her dad because she believes it's the Daredevil, but no, it's actually the Bullseye. So then she just beats the crap out of Daredevil, man, And then it's like, oh no, it's you, Matt. And then the bullseye just kills her. But here's the thing, we do see the body. So by movie standards, she's probably not coming back. Unless, of course, they do find some way to bring her back. Because we all know in Deadpool and Wolverine, she will be showing up to some degree. Whether that's from another universe or the same exact universe is yet to be seen. But I don't know. And then Daredevil eventually fights Bullseye. There's this funny sequence in, like, this church where they're, like, on the little, like, pipe things that make the big noises. And, they're fighting on this. And obviously, Daredevil, is basically just allergic to sound. Because it's all nocturnal. Everything he sees through his eyes is just from the sounds around him building these worlds, these poor CGI worlds, I might add. Like, some of this stuff just absolutely looks like shit, but I don't care because it's funny. So yeah, they eventually fight, and at one point, Bullseye gets his hands, like, shot, and he's like, no! I've been defeated! Give me mercy! And then, like, seriously, it literally just plays out like that. And then he just jumps, and he just falls through a freaking window. And, he does all these, like, facial expressions. At one point, he says, now it's time to make some noise. And he just starts banging the walls. Everything is, and then, Daredevil eventually goes on to face the Kingpin, where he just beats the absolute crap out of him. Because they build up the Kingpin little bit by bit throughout the movie. But in the end, he really does not play a huge part on this movie. And you can tell they kind of wanted to do sequels, but they ended up not doing so. I don't know why. Yeah, so he eventually defeats the Kingpin with relative ease. All he has to do is, like, just use his nocturnal abilities and just beat the crap out of him. And then he just kind of leaves. And then we have these cool shots of him on the sides of buildings, like on the corners, just standing there ominously. And yeah, that's probably the best thing in this movie. All around, it's a pretty okay movie. I mean, it's cheesy. It's relatively bad. There's good things about it, there's bad things about it. It's such a mixed movie. But, you know, the superhero movies made around this time were relatively mixed, and this was before the MCU. This kind of, if you think about it, kind of paved the way for what Iron Man would perfect, and how they made these comic book movies. So yeah, I relatively enjoyed this movie. Out of 100, it's probably like a 65. Out of 10, it's probably a 5. If you enjoyed this video or any of my other content, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.